Welcome back to my channel, it's Jock, and I actually wanted to sit down for this video. I thought about doing this video a couple different ways, maybe walking through the city, showing you guys a lot of the city, but I wanted to do what I've seen so many other people, YouTubers that I have seen, that has actually motivated me to come visit these places, live in these places, and I love sometimes the content. So this video is basically going to be how I feel my experiences as being Black, living in Barcelona, and just the things that I notice and the things that I think people would want to know if you want to live in Barcelona. First, living in Barcelona is definitely something I would say everybody should at least try. I loved Barcelona from the day that I moved here. And it's always been one of those things that you're asking yourself if you can actually make it here. A lot of the times, because I didn't know the language originally, when I first moved here, I didn't know barely anything. And especially because it's a little different, because it's the Spanish here is a little different from the Spanish that you may be used to in America, where it's Latin Spanish, but this is more European Spanish, or Castillo, as they call it. And then it's also, they speak Catalan. So you have like Spanish, and then you have Catalan, or Castillo and Catalan. And it's totally different languages. From the beginning, I would definitely say that the people here are very welcoming. I would always wonder how a place that hasn't really been integrated with a lot of English, even though this is a very big touristy place. And if most of you follow me on Instagram or seeing travels that I've had before, I usually like to have the authentic experience of any country, city that I visit. So the place that I live in is called the Champla. It's more tourist, it's still touristy, but more expensive. So, but a lot of people don't speak Spanish here. I mean, Spanish. A lot of people don't speak English here. But unless you go closer to the city center, closer to like, the Ramblas or Plaza Catalunya or Universidad. It's like a lot of people don't speak a lot of English, or a lot of older people don't speak a lot of English. It's usually the younger uni kids that speak English. Do you deal with racism? I would definitely say yes, you will deal with racism in Barcelona, but it will never be from someone that's Spanish or Catalan. And that's from my personal experience. I've definitely dealt with racism, but I think a lot of the exposure that people here get, or the communities are consuming, would be from movies or television or social media and things like that. So a lot of the times that you may have an interaction with a police officer or things like that, they're gonna ask you stereotypical questions that you're sometimes wondering, like, why would you ask me that? And then you have to understand that it just comes down to ignorance. And that's been my experience. When it comes to people admiring me, I definitely think people admire my skin color here, especially I think sometimes, of course, I stand out. I'm one of the darkest people in the city. But it's also been a very good thing. It's always like mi niño or cariño, which basically means like, well, guapo. Guapo is beautiful, cariño is like honey or things like that. But it's a terms of endearment that you get a lot of times. That I've always felt welcome in this country. I've always felt welcome in this city. And that's what I've told a lot of people. Like, I've never felt more welcome in a place like I've felt welcome in Barcelona. Now, when it comes to foods and things or things like that, I'll put that in another video. This was just strictly about being Black. Now, when it comes to dating or making friends, I definitely think there's a lack of exposure when it comes to Black people here, especially if all the Black people here are basically tourists, so they're never really here for a long amount of time. So I definitely think that people still have biases. They still have like these things, these little quirks that you're like, that's racist. But because they don't have a lot of people that common Black people that actually integrate into the culture. I definitely think that it's one of those things that it's a teaching moment, but I've never met someone Spanish or Catalan that's not willing to learn if you tell them. Like if you tell them. Other people, that's another video, but the racism that I have faced in this country has never been from Spanish or Catalan people. It's also certain things of, you know, I just think when you see people stare in the beginning, this isn't a country that really stares. I've been many other places where people are like really staring. I think it's more in the summers, people stare a lot. In the winters now, it's like winter now, so nobody's really caring, especially if they see you often. Like in my neighborhood, nobody stares at me, but they all know me. Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? You know, it's all the same things. But I definitely encourage anyone that's Black, if you do visit Barcelona, try to integrate yourself into the culture, try to learn the language. It'll make your experience a lot better. For me, it made me feel a little more safe. When I knew the language, I was able to understand what was happening, when it was happening. And still, I mess up. I still speak primarily English. But I'm able to get everything I need to do done in Spanish if I have to. So that's what I would say. So if I had to rate Barcelona on a scale of 1 through 10, definitely the quality of life for Black people for me has been amazing. It's definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. The racism, I think that'll be anywhere you go. But I definitely don't think it's as prominent as it was like in the States or even in London. And I don't think I've ever made a video when I lived in London about the racism in London. And it's one of those places that the quality of life is so good, people don't really have time to do things like that. So definitely will make a part 2 going more in depth about this, but I definitely want to touch on the surface of this because I think a lot of people have never really heard me speak about it. They just know I live in Barcelona. And I wanted you all to definitely hear it from me that, you know, it's a good place for Black people to live. And I can't wait to share more of my journey with you guys. Okay? So as always, thanks for liking, thanks for sharing, thanks for subscribing. Until next time, peace and love. See you guys later.